the Savage Model 93. Let's check it out. Savage is a legendary company for over 100 years. I mean, they've been around for a long time. They've made really quality firearms for a number of years. Back during the 80s, they kind of had a lull when another company bought it out, but they came back and really have come back strong with the 110 bolt action rifle and 308 and a lot of others. Right now, Savage is making a big push to update their 22 rimfires. This is the original Model 93 before the update. In fact, I bought this at Walmart on clearance for $99. I was really excited about getting it. But now they've gone to different designs. Really, one of the big things is the AccuTrigger. This has the standard regular trigger and a lot of other things that Savage has done. So I've really gotten excited about the accuracy even of this rifle. Guys, there's just something about getting out with a bolt action rifle, really focusing in on your accuracy. Something about the movement of that bolt, it's just a lot of fun. I have a lot of semi-automatic rifles and they're fun to get out and shoot, but there's something about just slowing it way down with a bolt action or a lever action for that matter, and it just makes it a very relaxed day at the range. The one thing about this rifle that really appeals to me is the weight. It's so lightweight. I mean, it weighs 5 pounds, so it's just really handy. Of course, you add your bipod and scope, and that changes the weight. And no matter what rifle you do that with. But the black synthetic stock is pretty much weatherproof, and if you're out hunting or shooting, like a day like today, it's been raining all morning, and so it's wet out here, and I don't have to really worry about it. Now, it comes with a 5-round magazine, but 10-rounders are available. Got these from gunmagwarehouse.com. These are all factory magazines. I think these are about $23.99 a piece, and of course they didn't have these available. But you know, these are pretty decent little magazines. Only thing is, when you fully load them, sometimes they're a little sticky to ride over the bolt. You know, it does feed well, it ejects well. It has the double ejectors in the bolt, so it really pulls these out well. And you know, it's nice to have these good quality steel magazines. I mean, they are of good quality even though they're stamped metal. To insert the magazine, there's a small little spring that kind of catches and a little bar that these little rails go up into. And it just slides up in and locks into place. When you want to retrieve it, just bring that loose and it pops right out. The safety on the rifle is right here on the side, and you can just actuate it while you have it in hand without moving. When you have it on safety, it does lock the bolt down. And pull it off. Of course, then you can go ahead and insert your round. The bolt knob is small and rounded. There's no texturing, but it's fairly easy to get a hold of. Just bring it up. Pretty smooth feeding. Savage has pretty much gone to all AccuTriggers for their rifles, which makes it, the AccuTrigger is one of the best triggers on the market. Factory trigger for sure. But with this one, it has the standard trigger, and it's like got some creep right before it breaks. And it's pretty noticeable, but you know, it still functions just fine. We're getting about 6 pounds on the trigger pull. I checked it about 3 times, and it was a little over and a little under around the 6 pound mark. So the brake, I mean, and actually we were able to get pretty good accuracy with the rifle, even with that trigger. It's not a terrible trigger, it's just not one of the better ones that I've seen. It does have that little bit of creep, but there is no over travel whatsoever. On the synthetic stock, there's some checkering here and right here on the fore end. So you have a little bit of texturing to be able to grab, but there's a little bit of texturing on the whole stock, but it's still pretty smooth. I think this really adds to the rifle. The barrel's carbon steel, it's 21 inches, it's a pretty good taper, so it keeps the weight down. This one does have iron sights on it. It's one of the little adjustable buckhorn type sights with a little black blade at the front, and you can move the windage over if you want to. You can change the elevation on the rear sights as well. This receiver's drilled and tapped. I put a scope mount on here, and I got one of the Sightron. This is a 2x7. It's a Rimfire Scope. I got this from Optics Planet, and great little scope. I mean, I was really shooting those first groups at 2 power, and in fact all the way up until I went out to 50 yards where I upped it to 7. But the clarity was really good on it. This is a great little inexpensive option if you're looking for something for rimfire, and it can handle, you know, the 22 Magnum with no problems. In fact, I'll have the links down below on this scope particularly, because this is the first Sightron I've had, and I'm very pleased with it. Now I typically run Harris bipods on my rifle. This is, I believe, a Black Hawk bipod. I picked it up at Cabela's last year. The finish is not quite as nice as your Harris, but it's about half the price. And for a rifle like this, I think it really suits it. You can swivel around some, and it does pop out. So, you know, a decent little bipod. But it does have the sling swivel to fit your bipod, which makes it nice. And of course, you can go to a sling if you want to. And there's a sling swivel here at the buttstock. Now, right at the end of the pistol grip, we do have a small cap with the old Savage logo, with the Indian, and with Savage and the Indian logo here. And I just recently did a review on the B17 where they've gone to a different type logo. And one of the things that they did was they removed the Indian. I didn't really like that at first, but they told me that the reason they did it was because they've gone to the AccuTrigger, they've gone to a lot of new things, and they want to get rid of the old reputation that Savage had back in the 80s. It's not a political correct thing, it's just that the Savage idea has kind of moved and they've changed it. There's some other things that they're adding to their stocks and their guns, and they just kind of wanted to go in a different direction, so I can respect that. Now, choosing between the 22 long rifle and the 22 Magnum, we're just going to talk about some of the advantages of both. 22 long rifle, very common, less expensive, and there's a ton of different choices out there. 22 Magnum can be a little more difficult to find at times. It is a little more expensive. They're both 40 grain bullets, and we're looking actually at the CCI Maxi Mag hollow point here, and then the 22 CCI Mini Mag here, to give you a kind of more of a comparable comparison. There's a ton of different offerings out there. This just gives you a reference point. The velocity on the 22 Magnum is 1,875 feet per second, whereas your 22 Mini Mag is 1,235 feet per second. So we have about a 640 difference in velocity. 312 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle with the 22 Magnum, with your 22 long rifle 135 foot-pounds. So quite a bit, over twice as much with your 22 Magnum. We're going to get out to 25 yards. It's 267 versus 119. And then we're going to move right out to 100 yards. 166 foot-pounds for your 22 Magnum versus 88 foot-pounds with your 22 long rifle. Now, as far as bullet drop at 100 yards, the 22 Magnum's dead on. You're going to lose 3.3 inches with your 22 long rifle. At 200 yards, we're going to drop about 17 inches, but we're going to drop 32 inches at 200 yards with 22 long rifle. We're going to be shooting Federal Premium. This is 40 grain and standard velocity. I want to thank Federal Premium for sending the 22 Magnum. This stuff can be somewhat difficult to find, but it's coming back. It comes with a standard 5-rounder, but 10 rounders, of course, you know, just more to shoot. I got these magazines at gunmagwarehouse.com. I think they were $23.99 a piece. They're metal, and they function really well. One thing I do want to note, though, is when you're shooting these, the first couple of times, they kind of stick a little bit until they get worn in right here. And so they'll go too far, and you can have some problems closing the bolt. But once you shoot a couple of those, they function fine after that. Now that's some serious damage to a tomato. Now here at 50 yards we moved it up to 7 power so we could really get a really tight sight, and as you can see just really good groups. One little flyer, I was shooting downhill so it changed the point of impact, and my bipod needed to be a little longer, the legs on it. I was having to really kind of crunch down, so to be honest with you, I was surprised at these groups because I wasn't that comfortable shooting. I have 100 yards here, but it's even more uphill, and I just decided that 50 and 25 would really give us a good indication of the accuracy of this rifle, even with that standard trigger. You put an AccuTrigger in this thing, it would be phenomenal. Here we were shooting 25 yards. I was on 2 power, shooting at the minimum setting on the scope. Still just a really solid little groups. Every once in a while a little flyer, but this is just Federal Premium. It's the 40 grain full metal jacket. It's just target ammo. Not anything particularly special. It's just good standard ammunition. If you find one of the old Savage 93s and you're trying to decide, the 22 Magnum is really an accurate little rifle. It's light, it's handy, easy to carry around in the woods, and just a lot of fun at the range. But Savage has done a lot of improvements with their new line, so I would definitely recommend you check them out if you don't find just a smoking deal on one of these. Their new B17s and B22s, 22 Magnums, there's a whole list of different rimfire rifles that they're making, so check out savagearms.com, and I'll tell you what, it makes it very difficult to decide on which model to go with. But if you find one of these for $99 in Walmart, it's a no-brainer. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America, long live the Republic. Savage has been, then we have muzzle energy, which is 12, then we have muzzle energy, which is 312 pounds, then we have muzzle energy, 1200. I'm a savage, you're a savage, we're all savages. Section 193, Section 193, rifle, 3 Magnum, Second line 3, check it out.